Welcome back to A People's Guide to Publishing. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing and Distribution. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 25 years.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director here at Microcosm. We are an independent mid-list publisher based in Portland, Oregon. We have 14 employees, over 650 titles in print with 20 to 40 new books per year, and we distribute thousands of titles from other publishers.
We started this podcast so that we can share what we've learned with newer publishers so that you can learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe you just want to understand the publishing industry.
This week, we are going to answer another reader question.
Thanks, readers.
And that reader question is, how do I refine my ideas into a single concept? Which is the number one point of being a publisher is like making intellectual property more valuable, but honing these ideas into a package is really how you do that.
So I feel like there's some background to this question that's helpful, is that the person wants to start a regional publication and they know what the competition is and they know what they don't want to do, but they're not sure what they do want to do or what format to do it in.
And, being angry and reactionary serves you well in the formative stages. I think back often to the interview with the CEO and founder of Lyft and how spiting Uber is really what gets him out of bed most days, and gives him the best ideas of how to punch back.
Never lose that fire.
But, you don't want to be reacting against the things that you don't like in the world solely as your decision-making mechanism. Because that doesn't always take you to great places. And it, I don't know. I think of the people that I see doing that, and it just makes me, less and less interested. So, be an angry young person, but don't maybe just be an angry young person.
Find your niche. Find your community of other people who may have a wide variety of ages and emotional expressions.
Let's hope. And yeah, if you're finding that everybody that you get feedback and information from is an angry young person, that might be the greatest indicator of diversifying your base.
So you have a book that is actually very helpful for this.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Excellent point, Ellie. I see that as my editor, you probably have read it. So,
several times.
In 1997, the original edition of Microcosm came out, and it had a new edition in 2017. The 20th anniversary edition that's my cheat sheet. And we added a lot of new information. And, the biggest thing is the advice that answers this question fundamentally, which is think about what you're so excited about that it gets you out of bed in the morning. Think about the things that you can't stop thinking about, and think about the things that you talk about even when really nobody cares.
But I would say also think about the things you talk about where people actually do care and try to find that place where they connect.
The advantage of a publication is that you can get outside of your sound loop of your friends and family. You can find the other people that are fascinated by vacuum tubes or nuts and bolt threads and things, or just obscure eras of jazz, or it's much easier to be an enthusiastic fan if you have a sounding board that isn't just oh, I'm really glad that you're into that. I see that you're really excited about that.
So I would say the whole point of creating a serial publication around something you love, at least for me, for some people the whole point is self-expression, but I think for me and for this person who asked the question, the point is community, to build a community.
I think the most important part of publishing anything is culture change, but
but in order to change the culture, you have to consolidate the culture.
Future episode of things we disagree about.
You have to get the culture to agree that it's a culture.
Culture doesn't need to agree to change.
That is true. Disagreement is an engine of change. We might not disagree as much as you hope. Anyway.
Well, I'll try again later.
I feel like we're losing focus somewhat here.
Nope. Disagree again.
Well, our point, reader, is that if one of the goals of your publication is to build a community and or take a community that's existing and reflect it back to itself in a way that helps it change for the better.
Yeah, that's a great goal. because like I guess that's Dr. Faith would probably have strong opinions about this, but I do feel like once somebody sees themselves in a clear light, that is the moment where they're like, oh yeah, let's do that a little differently.
Totally. Not just in therapy, but in the, weekly regional publication or monthly that you may be about to start.
Or, and I feel like I would like to generalize this question that anybody publishing anything needs to have these sort of soul-searching reflections with themselves, ideally before they get started. Because it's like, I think about my early works and they were very unfocused. They were really all over the place. And I would, because it's like I thought I would say all the things in one publication. Whereas like you don't, you want to, and maybe that's like something from the 90s that is no longer that way. Now things are nichier, where there's like so many more books in print and just, so many more like tugs on our attention that you need to be like, this is the thing for people that are obsessed with this breed of dog, And
I would say that, like, if you are in a position where you're, like, building a community where maybe there wasn't one before, or a strong one, where if you're, like, finding the people who are, like, interested in the same random combination of things that you are, then that probably changes your business model from if you're, for me, like, starting a feminist bicycle zine, there were so many people that were like, I'm into both those things, and I don't know anyone I can talk to about that, and they were happy to pay for it. But if I had been, like, starting a neighborhood newsletter that would tell my neighbors in Southeast Portland the news happening on our block, no one's going to pay for that. I'm going to have to get advertising and give it away for free, because that's an existing community, and they don't need anything to tell them that they're a community, even if they're open to things that tell them how their community could change.
Yeah, and so you don't always want to think in terms of a geographic community. You want to think often more in terms of an aesthetic community or like a philosophical community, like people that have like commonality other than where they live. Though where you live is, obviously like the most common way we think of community.
And maybe the commonality is like a shared goal for where you live.
Right. Like, putting in a bridge or fighting a tree or elimination of all nature, people have different kind of goals. But the
what are your goals?
Most important thing here is when you develop something, you don't want to develop it around yourself. You want to develop it around the reader. So you don't say like, this contains every story from the worst year of my life. You want to say, like, this is some themes and how they pertain to you.
Can you think of any examples of, like, hyper-regional publications that have been successful?
Mm-hmm. Many years ago in Portland, there was in 2002, I should say, there was a newspaper called Blackthorn that was, like, organized out of the anti-war movement. And so, U.S. went to war. It was kind of the first time in a while that we had, like, an out-and-out one. And so that, but it was not about the war so much as it was about, like, being politically left and, sort of all the various ways that go into that. And then we had a local, I guess, geographically local publication called The Defector. And that was similarly, you get an email every week or month, I don't remember now, that would be like, what new stuff do you have that you're doing, that you're putting on, or what things are you excited about that people should know about, where do you really want to, where are you enthusiastic? And I think that's kind of where it shined. And then every so often, the person would run into our building, put a whole bunch on the free rack, run out the door, and then people would come by and be like, new Defector, and they would be really stoked on it. And then, the cycle would repeat, and then, one day, like, out of nowhere, it just stopped. And so that's, which I feel like is sort of the beauty of a publication like that, But, and then, you can look upon it fondly rather than, like, watching it wither into irrelevance.
I was thinking about the Freebox zine that we used to have in Portland. Someone named BC started it, and you could only get issues in free boxes.
Free boxes, for those who are not Portlanders, are places where you put dishes that you no longer use, or, your old lamp, or a pair of shoes that don't quite fit, and you put them in a little box on the curb for other people to take and use, and then, thus the free box zine was a way to be an obsessive fan of free boxes and also reach the one population that you was assuredly going to share that passion, in the free box.
So lots of options for you, and good luck with what you publish. Send us a copy.
And yes, please do. And, think of who else might be interested in what you're doing. Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.